Hi, this is the tutorial for using the base system payroll calculator function. You should be logged in to the base system, and in order to use the payroll calculator function, you will need to ensure that you have the appropriate security roles. Those roles include the department budget processor and the department budget approver. If you do not have those roles, you will be unable to run the payroll calculator. So let's go ahead and go through the process. So navigation wise, payroll calculator is of course under the base menu, departments, submenu, and then payroll calculator. As you can see here, there are 3 steps to the payroll calculator. Step 1 is a step that the base system actually extracts all of the data that it needs from the HRMS system, which is the county human resources system that contains all personnel data. We have step 2, which is optional, unlike step 1, which is it's a user-defined changes, and what it allows is if you have positions that you know will be leaving sometime during the fiscal year and you know the exact date, you're able to enter those in so that the payroll calculator will only calculate labor cost information for that particular employee up to the date that you enter into the system. And then payroll calculator step 3 is the actual final process in which the system uses the information from step 1, any data you may have entered from step 2, and it'll calculate labor costs based on those 2 steps, plus the variables that the human resources team has entered into the system and that the base team has built into the system. So in this particular tutorial, we will only cover step 1. There will be a part 2 to this tutorial in which we will touch on steps 2 and 3. So let's go ahead and get started with step 1. So you'll want to go to payroll calculator step 1. You have 2 options. You can either find an existing value or you can add a new value. Now, if this is your first time running the payroll calculator for the budget season, it's always advisable that you actually complete and add a new value, and you create a brand new run control ID. If you have run multiple instances of the payroll calculator and you'd like to update using a previously used run control ID, you may do so by clicking this find an existing value tab. Click search and it will give you a list of all the run control IDs that you have used up until that point. For purposes of this tutorial, we will go ahead and we will create a new run control ID. We will call it EOPRFY16. Now, I'll go ahead and add this now. It'll be very important that you remember which run control ID that you used, because you will need this for step 3 of the payroll calculator. Now, adding that new run control ID opens up this particular screen. This is a screen that if you're going to have a huge error that causes a lot of anguish, pain, crying, heartbreak, this is the screen where it will happen. And it's usually because it's related to these options here. Many people take the business unit versus department, what they mean, and they misunderstand how the system uses these different options. Business unit means the actual department. So if we come over here, I'm going to look in the look up business option, which is this little magnifying glass here. Notice that there's a list of all the departments that are in the base system, and the business unit is a 5-letter code. So running this payroll calculator by business unit means that you are going to get the payroll information for the entire department. Now, some departments have multiple units, and those units have different people that are responsible for developing the different budgets. So the biggest error that we have seen that causes the most anguish at this point is when you have let's say 3 different people running your budget, and 2 of the people start the process early and they run the calculator by department, which would be this option here. And let me give you an example so you can see. Let's say it's auditor controller. So you've got your individuals who are running this particular query, or excuse me, this process. They run it by an individual unit. They each do it. They go in, they start making adjustments to their staff, adding, deleting, adjusting costs, and then you have your third person who forgets to use this option like everyone else has, and they run it as a business unit. What happens when they do that is when they run the payroll calculator, it will overwrite any work that anyone else has done for that department as it relates to positions. Again, that can be very frustrating if you have people who have put in a lot of hours to have their work completely overridden, and it's not something that the base team can recover. So once it's overwritten, the information is pretty much gone. Best practices and what we suggest that departments do when you have multiple divisions in which multiple people handle the budgets is you designate one person to run the payroll calculator, have them run it at the business unit level, and once they run it, allow all the other staff to come in and make adjustments to the output from the payroll calculator process. So saying that, I will go ahead and I will continue with my example using best practice, which would be running by business unit. I am going to select the executive office, and then I'm going to click run, which will take me to this screen. Notice that the description says base payroll calculator 1, and there's the process name. I'm not going to make any changes to this particular screen, but I would like you to note that the run control ID is EOPRFY16. We will need to use that when we run part 3 of the payroll calculator. So I'm going to click OK to tell the system that it is OK to run this process, and it will return me to the previous screen. Now, you cannot continue to the next step until this process has completed. So in order to determine if this process is completed, one way you can access that information is with this process monitor screen link. You will click here, and it will take you to the screen that will give you the status of the payroll calculator. Now notice this was the last process that I ran, and it's still, run status is still that it's being queued. So this means that it has not finished. When we have successful posting, it'll say success and posted. So right now it's still queuing. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so that you can see the entire screen. This screen does not automatically refresh and give you updates. So in order to see where the process is, you have to continue to press this refresh button. So I'm going to do that now. And notice that my run status has changed to success, and the distribution status has changed to posted. That means that this process has successfully completed and we're ready to move on to the next step. Now hopefully you will have access right away to part 2 of this particular tutorial.